Hey Sharks, it's Miss Luter. Welcome back to week 3 of Duval County Public Schools online home learning. We are in chapter 13, lesson 3, finding the volume of spheres. So our I can statement is I can find the volume of a sphere and the dimensions of the sphere when given its volume. Here we have our sphere, which is basically a ball. Remember, it is a three-dimensional figure with all points the same distance from the center, and the radius of the sphere is the distance from the center to any outside point on the sphere. So notice there's only one measurement needed to find the volume of the sphere, and that is the radius. Pay attention if they give you the diameter, and understand that you have to divide by 2 in order to find the radius. Here we have a real-world example of a sphere, our rubber band ball. And like I said, pay attention if they give you the diameter. So here they gave you the diameter of the rubber band ball being 12 centimeters. Knowing that the rubber band ball has a diameter of 12 centimeters, we can simply divide by 2, break the diameter in half, to identify that the radius is 6 centimeters. And then this is the formula needed to find the volume of a sphere. So the volume of the sphere is 4/3 pi radius cubed. Or in other words, 4/3 times pi could be 3.14 or 22 sevenths, 22/7, and then radius cubed. Understand that radius to the third power is radius times radius times radius. In other words, 6 multiplied by itself 3 times. So if I plug in the measurement of 6 as the radius, I would have 4/3 times pi times 6 to the third power. And using our calculator, we have 6 to the third power, which is 6 times 6 times 6, 216. And then they want us to leave our answer in terms of pi. So this is the easiest step. Leaving your answer in terms of pi means that the pi symbol is going to be in the answer. And how we want to multiply this fraction is simply multiplying by the number on top. 216 times 4 equals 864, and then dividing by the number on the bottom, dividing by 3, 288. So once again, in order for me to multiply by 4/3, I simply took 216 multiplied by 4 divided by 3. And I have 288 pi. Awesome job. So for this one, I was able to identify that the diameter of the sphere was 12 centimeters. If I divide 12 centimeters by 2, I could get the radius of 6 centimeters. And I had to plug the value of 6 centimeters into my formula for the volume. Volume equals 4/3 pi radius cubed. I used my calculator to determine 6 to the third power is 216. And then I multiplied 216 by 4/3 by multiplying by 4 and dividing by 3. In order to get 288 pi, leaving the answer in terms of pi, 288 pi. So let's try it by solving completely, using 3.144 pi and rounding the final volume to the nearest tenth. Remember, the nearest tenth is basically dimes. It is the digit closest to the decimal to the right. So for this problem, they gave us a volume of a sphere with a diameter of 7.4 milliliters. If the diameter is 7.4 milliliters, then I need to find the radius. 7.4 divided by 2 gives me the radius of 3.7. Using my formula, volume equals 4/3 pi radius cubed. I have 3.7 as my radius, so I can plug that value in for R. Next, I want to find what is 3.7 cubed. So we have 3.7 times 3 3.7 times 3.7 equals 50.6530. 50.6530. Alright, and then I can continue my equation. So I basically going to work it from the right to the left. Because this is multiplication, I can do it in any order. So I'm going to start with 50.653, multiply it by 3.14, multiply it by my denominator 4, and then divide it by my numerator 3. I get 212.067, but I want to round my final answer to the nearest tenth. So I have to pay attention. All these digits have to round to the nearest tenth, which means the 6 tells the 0 to round up to a 1. In other words, my volume is 212.1. And the volume of the sphere is approximately, remember we cannot get the exact because we are multiplying by an irrational number pi, but we can approximate it to be 212.1 cubic milliliters. Cubic milliliters. So the cubic is basically saying that this is milliliters to the third power. This is a three-dimensional shape, so all of our answers will be to the third power, 212.1 milliliters cubed. And that does it for solving for the volume of a sphere. Given any ball, any sphere, you need to identify the radius, apply it to our volume formula. Volume equals 4/3 pi radius cubed. And if I were to write that out, to be an easy way to identify volume for a sphere, it would be volume times 4, or volume equals 4 times pi, 3.14, times radius. Radius has to be multiplied 3 times because it is radius cubed. So radius times radius times radius. Oops, try it again. And then last but not least, I want to divide it by 3. So notice here in my formula, I broke that fraction apart. Because like I said, all you're doing is multiplying it by 4 and then dividing it by 3. So I can expand my formula for a sphere to be volume equals 4 times pi times radius times radius times radius divided by 3. This is the exact same thing as volume of the formula, 4/3 pi radius cubed. It just depends on how your brain likes to think about it in order to put it in the calculator. I hope this answers all of your questions on how to find the volume of a sphere. Please make sure that you took notes on the steps. You must need the radius. You must cube the radius. Radius times radius times radius. And then multiply it by pi and multiply it by 4/3, or in other words, multiplying by 4, dividing by 3. Pay attention if your question is asking you to leave your answers in terms of pi, or if they would like for you to round to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth. Please follow all steps in order to find the correct answer before submitting your answers in the practice problems. Good luck!